Welcome to Zambition, the channel on which we engage in dialogue with leaders from across sectors and generations. Greetings and welcome to Zambition. My name is Martin Kalungubanda, your host on this channel. Our guest today is a very fascinating young person. His name is Bwembya, popularly known as Bwembya.
When me say pela to change na matrix. When me say pela to change holy tricks. When me say pela to change na matrix. When me say pela to change holy tricks. When me say pela mu change na matrix.
An award-winning artist and musician, a human rights defender and philanthropist. Bwembya serves as a board member for World Vision Zambia. He is a goodwill ambassador for many organizations and initiatives that include AIDS Help Care Foundation, the BBC Media Action, and also that includes on the local scene the Ministries of Health and Local Government. Bwembya, welcome to Zambition.
Thank you very, very much, Mr. Banda. It's great to be here. It feels like home, and I appreciate that electrifying introduction. It makes me feel important.
You are. I would like to begin my conversation with you by asking you to describe an image or object that best reflects who you are and the journey you have walked so far.
Wow. Thank you so much. To describe myself, I will say I'm a self-motivated young man who was born in a very small town. But being born in a small town did not stop me from having big dreams. And therefore, I had to expand my horizon and my thinking by making sure that I come out of that little shell where everybody around me felt that we could not go far because we came from a small town. But I had to think big and began looking at my vision. And thanks to the values that were instilled in me by my mother, who single-handedly raised me. So she raised me as a single mother. She did a great job. And so I give a lot of credit to her. May her soul rest in peace. She is one person who inspired me to work harder because I wanted to change the status quo in my family. I wanted to change her situation. So my dream was always to work hard in my education and also work hard in whatever career path I choose so that one day I can be able to take care of my mother. And once I got into the music industry, one of the messages that I really wanted to highlight was the plight of a woman because I saw the struggles of my own mother. So to sum it up, in describing myself, I would call myself the voice for the voiceless because I have used my platform to speak for those that might not have as big a platform as I have had myself.
And what might be the 2 to 3 most defining moments in your life?
If I go back to my high school days, the day I got appointed as head boy for Cabo Secondary School, for me was a moment when I realized that leadership was something that is inborn, and I love the fact that teachers were able to identify the leadership qualities that I had or that I have. That's one of the most defining moments. Also, later on, I got elected as the chairperson for the anti-AIDS club in the whole of Kabwe district. So all the clubs would come together and I served as a chairperson. Then later on in my life, when I got into the music industry and I was doing my advocacy work, I got identified by the US Embassy to attend a program called Young African Leaders Initiative, which also gave birth to what I would call my third defining moment, where I got recognition from the 44th President of the United States of America, Barack Obama, who endorsed the work that I do in Zambia and pledged partnership with me and my Music for Change initiative.
What a story, and a phenomenal one for that matter. Before, permit me to simply ask, and may her soul rest in peace, what was Mom's name?
Her name was Miriam Mulenga Mumba.
We honor her name. We honor what she brought into the world. And when you talk about the small town, what is that town where you grew up?
I grew up in Kabwe, in the central part of Zambia. Yeah, so yeah, Kabwe district is the provincial headquarters for the central province of Zambia.
And where does the name Biflo come from? You were born
that's a good one.
Brian Bwembya. Where does the name
yes.
Biflo come from?
Right. Actually, growing up in Kabwe, when I discovered that I could sing, and one of my friend's parents, our neighbor, identified the potential for me to sing, where I used to stand on a table that was outside our house and imagine that there was a crowd in front of me and I would sing, close my eyes. So one time I found my friend's mother watching me while my eyes were closed and I was singing, and I just found her clapping when I opened my eyes, and she was clapping and saying, "You are such a great singer, and I think you're going to be a musician one day." I was about 7 years old at the time. So what used to happen was that whenever I'm singing, people would say, "You have a nice flow." And I remember participating in talent contests and singing competitions, where people would always say, "Oh, you have a very nice flow." Or someone would say, "I love the way you flow." "Oh, that's a lovely flow." So they kept saying flow, flow, flow. And I kept wondering to say, why can't people just say, "I love the way you sing," or "I love your singing, I love your music"? Why do they keep saying flow? So someone described my type of music when I asked them to say, why do you say flow? And they told me to say, "Oh, your type of music, the way that you arrange your words, they flow very well. So it's a flow. You have this nice flow."
You that do us part, those were your many promises. Why you turn around from sweet to bitter? Why you turn around beating a woman? Why you turn around instigating violence? Why you turn around boom?
So since everybody keeps saying, "I love the way you flow," and my name is Brian or Bwembya, so I got the B from Brian and the flow from the people's praises and compliments and put them together. So we said Brian can flow, so B flow.
I now would like to invite you to share with us what led you to so strongly come through, both before the campaign for the last elections of 12th August and during the campaign. Your voice was very strong. You threw in whatever was in your powers. Before,
Wow.
what was it that pricked you so much that you could not do? You could not look away? Kindly share.
Wow. Thank you very much. I think that because of my own struggles during my childhood and how difficult it was to access education, and to access many other resources in the country, and also my own mother's experiences. It always put me in a position where I did not want to continue seeing other people going through the things that we went through. And I am also one person who is very concerned about the future of my country. The political leaders that we choose are the ones that make a lot of the decisions that border on the kind of environment that young people can operate in and do their businesses or express themselves through their talents and thrive and grow, etc., etc. And being in my 30s now, I must say I've also been a keen follower of the political scenario in my country from the time I was young, even from the times of my primary school, where we would learn social studies and civic education and get to understand things like the liberation struggle, who are our heroes, the Kaundas, the Nkumbulas, the Kapwepwes, and the people that fought so much for this country and what they went through. So having read that story and having understood that history, I have always paid attention to the politics of the country, such that we see issues of 48 houses that are unaccounted for. Nobody knows who the owner is. We get to see the issue of expired medication that is being procured, through people who are connected to the ruling party. We got to see situations where a student at the University of Zambia is tear gassed for staying in a room where she doesn't want to go and participate in the protests that are happening outside the university. And because she's in a room, she's tear gassed and she dies there. And our leaders don't want to say anything about it or to explain what happened. There's no accountability. So all those things, a combination of several things that were happening, the lack of transparency, the lack of accountability, the overspending, the contraction of debt without getting back to the citizens and giving them information on how this money is being spent. All those things just made me worry about my future and the future of the next generation, because I don't want in the near future my children to come and ask me to say, Daddy, but where were you when all these things were happening? Where were you when our country was being handed over to people from other countries because we failed to pay debt? Where were you when, the disrespect for human rights or the lack of constitutionalism was beginning in our country? Why did you not speak out? Why did you not challenge the status quo? That inspired me to make my voice louder. And the fact that I already have a platform as a musician makes it easier because I already have an audience. So I just got to utilize the big platform that I have and began talking about some of these things that have been happening in the country. And that's why I was able to lead a very powerful youth movement.
Thank you. And on behalf of many people who have followed your courage, I say thank you. But also, I am not oblivious to the courage it took for a young person like you to do what you did. I'm not oblivious to the risks that you personally, you and your family took to take such a strong stance on a number of issues. We did witness how particularly the cadres of the previous government or political party in power then could brutalize those who spoke the contrary view. What gave you the courage? Because you could have easily, popular as you are, successful as you are as an artist, you could have chosen to look away and you would have still been reasonably comfortable. Where did your courage come from?
I think that my courage came from above. There is a scripture. I hope I'm allowed to quote scripture.
It's your view
Uh,
and it's your space, Biflo.
Thank you so much. Thank you. There is a scripture in the Bible, which is a book that I read, which says, "To whom much is given, much is expected." And because I have been given a big platform by virtue of being a musician and being a civic leader, being a youth mentor, someone who mentors other young people, I know that I have a big responsibility in society. There is no way I can have such a big platform and not make use of it when I can see that things are going wrong. So for me, I think I reached a point where I was ready to sacrifice all that I have just to ensure that we liberate our country from what I would call recklessness. The courage came from the fact that I have a future to protect, and it's not just about me, because like you said, I had the option of walking away and giving up the fight and saying, well, I'm already famous. I already have all these ambassadorial roles where I can make my money, and I'm okay, and my family is okay. But of what good is it for me to be okay and my family to be okay when my neighbor's family is not okay? Because even when we look at issues of crime, crime happens because others in the same society feel left out of the resources that others are accessing. And so they will say, oh, since I don't have and that other person has, I might as well just go and grab it by force. And then the others will start using shortcuts. So to look at the integrity and the dignity of the country, to preserve that, it calls for a lot of courage indeed. And that's why for me, I had to do what I did, including staging a protest where you saw a lot of state machinery being unleashed on young people like myself, and that protest was blocked, where we saw a lot of police presence, a lot of these big tankers and big guns and weapons all over town, all over Lusaka, looking out for this group of young people who are famously known as disgruntled youths. And because of what we saw there, we had to come up with an alternative plan of saying there is no way we're going to allow this to happen, because if we allow the other young people who are looking at us and as their young leaders to go to town where all this state machinery is, then some people might lose their lives, because we saw the type of regime that we had and how they were willing to inflict pain on citizens. So we said there is no way we are going to allow other young people to go in that environment. So we made announcements using social media, which is a powerful platform that we have as young people. And unfortunately, our leaders did not realize that social media has become so powerful. And every time we would use it, they would say, oh, no one is actually paying attention to your message and no one is listening. But we were mobilizing through these platforms, So we were able to make an announcement on social media and said, guys, we cannot risk your lives by allowing you to go there. So what we're going to do is that wherever you are in your backyard, just wear a black t-shirt, because, black represents the fact that we are dissatisfied with the leadership, and record a video of yourself and, protest online, protest from your backyard. Whereas the rest of us, about 13 of us, resorted to going to the bush, and we went and staged our protest in the bush using VPN, so that we are not, caught by the people that were looking for us. And we went and protested from the bush, and we were live on our Facebook platforms, and the whole country got to watch that protest, and they joined us virtually. And I think that opened up the minds of many young people who said, oh, this is the situation in our country. We cannot even be allowed to stage a peaceful protest, meaning that our freedoms of assembly are also being infringed on. So that protest, I think, opened the minds of many and contributed to the high voter turnout that we saw in terms of youth participation. It was a very tricky situation, but indeed courage was needed.
Thank you. Thank you for the courage. On behalf of the many millions of young people in our country, what advice or message would you give to our new government, having just experienced what you saw?
Wow. Thank you for that question. Social media, I have a combined total number of followers, or a little over 1 million followers when you combine my Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. But I believe that there is a bigger constituency out there, because those followers actually also speak to other people. So the message continues to spread like that.
That's
And
phenomenal.
yeah.
That's phenomenal.
Well, my advice to the new administration of leadership that we have in our country right now is basically to learn from the mistakes of the previous administration. I think that, not that I just want to be too hard on the previous administration, but it's worth mentioning that they had a lot of I think that they had a big opportunity to listen to the cries and the voices of the citizens, but they chose to ignore those voices. Even, for example, when we say Facebook is a very powerful platform, because many young people are actually watching what is happening and they're discussing using this platform. And then, you would hear them saying, who are you to speak to the government through Facebook? Yet the same government is issuing statements on Facebook. We would hear them ridicule opposition leaders and call them Facebook presidents. And they would always say, go on the ground, go on the ground and don't be on Facebook. Leave Facebook and go on the ground. But little did they realize that it is the same people that are on the ground that are using their gadgets to spread the message using Facebook. And that's why when the final results were announced, we were able to crack a joke where we would say, it looks like the Facebook president managed to download the voters from the Facebook online platform, and now these downloaded voters made it happen. So I think that my advice to the new administration is to be a listening government. And I know that sometimes this line is used as rhetoric in our country, where a lot of people will say, oh, we are a listening government, we are a listening government. But the implementation is the opposite, where you don't actually hear them or see them listening. So my advice is don't be reckless, and also don't take people for granted. It is the same people that vote for you, that vote you in, that can also vote you out. It is the same people that go and line up and cast their votes when it's time to vote. 5 years may look like it's a long time, but it's a very short time. So if you have made promises, please fulfill them, and make sure that you can start ticking and say, oh, this we promised and we are now delivering, or this we promised and we have delivered. Because this generation of young people, I must say, because I know them and I'm one of them, it's quite intelligent, actually. It's an intelligent generation that is paying attention and has got a lot of expectations, big expectations. So if you're going to promise something, they will make sure that you do it, and if you don't do it, they will vote you out.
Bflo, what is your ambition? What is your highest aspiration for our country?
I would love my children and my children's children to live in a Zambia that continues to be a beacon of peace. I would also love them to live in a Zambia that is prosperous and that gives opportunity to all Zambians, that rewards hard work, that whenever you work hard, you will not feel frustrated that I worked hard, but I'm not being rewarded for my hard work. A Zambia where they will feel this is my country, and it becomes your favorite country, where you don't feel inferior to other countries, and where you look at people coming from other countries, you don't have to say, oh, they are better than us, or because another race is better than me, or because they are from America or they are from Britain, they are better than me. I want them to live in a Zambia where they will know that our country is a great country. It has a lot of natural resources. It has got copper, it has got cobalt, it has got vast land, and it is attractive. That's why other people from other countries want to come and invest here, because it's a beautiful country. I want them to inherit a country that is peaceful, and that peace will also come by making sure that we have young people who are educated and are not trying to do shortcuts by becoming cadres who just go to the gym, build up some muscle, and begin fighting other people who have divergent views. A country where it is okay to express yourself and debate as long as you do it objectively and respectfully.
And my final question, Biflo, is what is the one best piece of advice you have ever been given?
Wow. I think it came from the 44th president of the US. After he left office, him and his wife had invited me for the launch of the Obama Foundation in late 2017 in Chicago. He asked me what I was planning to do for my country, or what I was currently doing for my country, and I mentioned to say I was doing a lot of activism work, and I'm a very active citizen, and I was doing so much, and I tried to list the many things that I was doing. And he told me to say, change doesn't come easily because it is a process. But even when you are, part of that process of creating change, when you see that it is getting frustrating and it is so hard, sometimes it's okay to slow down, relax, and just go back to the drawing board and say, oh, how can I do this better? And then you continue. You don't have to stress yourself all the time. So for me, that advice has always, helped me, even when I'm doing my activism work and my music. There are times when I want change to happen immediately. Then I remember those words and I say, oh, it's a process. It's okay to relax, find yourself as well, and take care of Brian, because there's a difference between Brian and Bflo. Bflo is the brand that is all over the place and doing all these things, but there's also the well-being of Brian, who I also need to take care of. So I always remember to say, oh, Brian also needs to be taken care of because he has a family. He also has to relax and have some family time and just relax. Yeah, so that advice always helps me to slow down.
Thank you. Thank you. Change is a process. And I also like the fact that you talk about taking care of the Brian, who quite often might be ignored because there is a Bflo. But allow me to be cheeky. Any way you can, in a very short period, just demonstrate to us how it flows. Are you able to sing one song to just indicate how things flow?
All right. This one is called Inchito Yakufwaya Inchito. Bibidi 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 biflo. Twalingile nchito yakufwaye nchito. Twalingile nchito yakufwaye nchito. Pantukuli bambi tatwakwate nchito. Atsikuli bena tatwakwate nchito. Ulio munandi uliajunza nalina nkweine na paunza noyo wino mukashana atinamunza twalipingene tukabaza kanshi chalo chalishupa mweba fyashina sumina pantu presha yena awe kwena yafula nakula kumbina twele application letter banji pwisho limutundunshi nakula kumbinako abati nchekelako ngawandishamo ninshinizi uyu mutwe ukapoleka nebo ayamapepa yakabola newo ngana pitoku kulibe nchito ngana eshoku yesako kwina na pitoku kulibe nchito.
Brilliant.
Our job
Thank
is
you.
to look for jobs.
Thank you. It's a phenomenal combination that you can have an artist who is also, and maybe they go together, politically conscious, but also cares a lot about society. And you happen to be young, and you can outwit politicians who still don't believe there are more ways of organizing than just walking the streets. The new streets are the social media platforms. Thank you
love
very
that.
much for your knowledge. Thank you for your wisdom. And I still want to emphasize, thank you for your courage.
Thank you very much for hosting me, and thanks to everybody that has taken time to watch this discussion.
Having listened to the dialogue and followed my conversation with our guest, I now invite you to look at the drawing that emerged out of that dialogue. Take time to see the contours, the colors, the images that are reflected on the painting, on the drawing. And pay attention to what the drawing evokes in you. What are the feelings? What are the thoughts that are ignited by you looking at the painting? What thoughts, feelings, and images does this painting evoke in you with regard to the future of our country? Kindly share your reflections on this channel so that we can continue the dialogue on the future of the country we all love, on the future of our nation. Thank you.